I looked at a video that I posted the other day when I was in Queens. And one of the shots of the B-roll was of a man sleeping on a park bench as I was headed to the Bronx, leaving Queens. This was just, as I was getting on the Grand Central, headed towards the Throgs Neck. Well, I didn't even get on the Throgs Neck. I wound up taking the, to me, it'll always be the, the Triborough Bridge. They keep changing the names of the bridges. Anyway, to me, it's a Triborough Bridge. Now it's called the RFK or something like that, which, whatever. So anyway, that's here nor there. I'm leaving Queens. I'm headed to the Bronx. I got to get through Manhattan. I see this guy, and I shot him real quick. And I also had a shot of a guy asking for money as I was getting off that ramp, actually. They were very close to each other. And so I thought about that for a second, and I thought, how many people even noticed the guy in that video? And what was I thinking when I shot him? And I almost felt kind of ashamed of myself in a way, because the story behind that guy is probably, obviously so sad, but at the same time, it's probably familiar in many ways. Like I probably know, hundreds of people like that guy. I do. I probably know hundreds of people like the guy who was asking for money. I know people who are right on the edge of that all the time. I know people who have taken, difficult paths in their lives and wound up like that. Drugs, crime, stuff like that. People who really had no options in many, many cases, and other people who did decide to go that way, which I think is pretty common. I think that with systemic racism, and also if you grow up around that kind of, environment, and if these are your role models when you're a kid, and, I just think that it's very easy to fall into that kind of life if you're not careful, if you're not special, actually, because I think it's more common to possibly fall into that kind of life than to overcome it. And it's so easy for people to go, hey, I grew up in the hood, I grew up in the projects, I made all the right choices, I overcame that. Just all you got to do is look around the country, look at the projects, go look at all the places in New York City, go to the Marcy houses, go to the Sumner houses, go to Edenwald, go to Chicago, go to Cabrini Green, go to Compton in LA, like everywhere in the country. There's poverty, there's crime, and there is systemic racism, which is not what I'm going to talk about in this video, which might surprise people because I love talking about that, because I'm that guy who annoys people talking about it incessantly, and I've been like that my whole life. But what I really want to talk about is that guy who was laying on that park bench. Because at first I was like, man, I got no business shooting something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I should leave him alone. It's private. But then I thought, it's not private. He's sleeping on a park bench. Like, maybe that's as much privacy as he can get without being unsafe. Where he's going to, he kind of wants to stay out in the open, because if he goes somewhere, where nobody could see him, bad things can happen. Because mental illness is real, and bad things happen to people all the time. And so I thought about that, who is this guy? Where did he come from? What was his life like? What led him to this moment? Was he an accountant? Was he an actor? Was he an artist like me? Was he a drug addict? Was he a drug addict as a child? There's so many possibilities. Did he have, did he get accepted to Columbia University and just couldn't get through? Did his tuition suck him dry so that it actually led him to this life? I mean, who is this guy? What happened? Who's the guy asking for money out here, walking between cars, putting himself in danger? As people get on, the Grand Central Parkway where there's like tons of traffic, it's crazy dangerous out there. And he's out there with a little sign that he drew on, basically, I need money. Who is that guy? Does he have a family? Does he have a daughter, a son, a mother, a father, cousins, friends that he grew up with? Did he have friends that he used to meet like once a year who, they were high school buddies or whatever? Did he have girlfriends? Did he have boyfriends? Was he gay? Was he straight? Is he religious? Did he travel a lot in his life? Was he just somebody who never left New York City? I remember when I went to college, I played football out at Colorado State University, and there was somebody on my team who was actually from Staten Island, which is one of the 5 boroughs in New York City, except that he had never been to Manhattan in his life. So here he is in Colorado, 2,000 miles away from New York City, grown up in Staten Island, and he had never been to Manhattan. He referred to Manhattan as the city. And I'm like, bruh, you live in the city. Staten Island, it's New York City. So there are so many stories like, who are these people? What have they been through? Did they have some kind of an injury that, just took their whole life away from them, stopped them from being able to earn money? Do they have, some kind of criminal record? Who knows what the story is? But the thing is that we all know these people. We all know these people that we see out on the street at some juncture in their life. Like, we know them when they were 18, when they were 12, when they were 5. We know them because when you're 5 years old, whether you're in the hood, in the worst circumstances, or you're in some rich apartment on Park Avenue, or in a big house out in the suburbs somewhere, or in the country, or whatever, generally when you're 5, you still have a chance no matter what. A chance. Some people an easier path than others, and that again is a whole other conversation, but it just struck me that I felt bad that I took it. But then I thought about it and I was like, I'm glad that I took it, because it should be documented, because here I am talking about this. And I guarantee that most people watching this video would never think about this. It would never cross their mind to even venture into this world of wondering who this individual is and what happened to them, and why should you even care? But see, we should all care. And it's relevant to what's happening around the country right now in the United States. Like, we should all care. Yesterday they were sending people to car washes to pick people up, because a lot of undocumented people, a lot of immigrants work in car washes. We should all care, because we all run into these people, human beings, people with families, children, elders. They enjoy the same things that we enjoy. They like to go to the movies. They like to go bowling. They love to eat food. They love to cook. They love to go to restaurants. They spend time with their friends. They're human beings. They laugh. They love. They cry. They have illness just like we do. They do well. They have people who overcome the odds and graduate college and go on to become doctors and lawyers and civil rights activists and accountants and, bodega owners and whatever. We know them. They're people. So this guy laying on a bench, I'm so happy I documented him, because it just reminds me to never forget that guy is me. He's you. He's all of us. And, as much as you can't help everybody, and I'm not saying take them home, and I'm not saying give them your money. I'm not saying any of that, but I am saying that don't forget that he is you, that you're no different than him. Don't forget that. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how much privilege you have. I don't care how much fame and fortune you have, whatever. Fame and fortune. I watched Luther Vandross's documentary the other day, and, Luther had a stroke and died. He was 52 when he died, I believe. And Marcus Miller, the great bass player, who was also one of Luther's best friends, like for life, he had such a profound comment in the documentary where he said, I tell people all the time, because Luther had so many struggles with his fame. Just like Robin Williams. I talked about that documentary recently too. Robin Williams, who took his own life. Marcus said, I tell people all the time, this whole fame and fortune thing, like the fortune is cool, for sure. But the whole fame thing, not so much. Because I think we forget, that we're all the same. Whether we have a lot of money or not, whatever, no matter how we look, we're treated differently, We created color, that's a social construct. I mean, we're all human beings. We have the same organs. We have the same blood. We're the same. We have the same desires, the same wants, the same needs. I mean, we're the same. But we forget that. And we create that. And I'm so grateful that I took that and then took a day or so to reflect upon it. And here I am talking to you about it. And maybe most of the people who clicked on this video are gone already, but maybe some of you have stayed to watch this. And this is a good example of how important it is to document life, to get out there and shoot. And I'm not saying be like, like get in people's faces and interrupt their day and just be inconsiderate and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying when you do shoot video and somebody happens to be in the shot, because, I'll be honest with you, I shot that because I saw him there and that's why I did it. But I didn't realize why I was doing it until now. I just did it because it's my nature to pay attention to people all the time. And I'm not saying that I thought about all this in the moment, but there was something in me that has this empathy that wanted to shoot that. When I saw the other guy walking, asking for money, walking in between cars, there's something in me that was like this sadness. I'm like I had $2 in my pocket. I just had $2 left. I don't really carry cash, but I happen to have $2. And I remember thinking to myself, there are these gluten-free brownies that I like that a friend of mine sells at his health food store. So I was like, I'm gonna go up there and get my wheatgrass juice, and I'm gonna buy one of those brownies with this cash. And I gave it to this guy. Now, big deal. Like, what do I want? A cookie? Like, it's a big deal. I gave him $2. But I'm just saying, if I had $100, I probably would have given it to him. Like, I guess my point is that I'm not forgetting that I could be him, that I am him, that you are him. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe that or not, whether you're elevated enough to understand that or not, you are him. He has parents. At some point in his life, he was born of a mother and a father. Might have been a foster child. I was a foster child. I was separated from my mother at birth. I was put into foster care. Anything could have come of me. Who knows? It was a total leap of faith. He could have had that life, or he could have had two solid parents who took him home and they had a big party and celebrated the new baby and he was so cute and everybody was cooing over him. Could have been like that too. But whatever it was, this is him today, struggling. Nobody wants to get out on the street and beg for money. Nobody wants to sleep on a park bench in the middle of the Grand Central Parkway in danger of even police arresting him. Like Mayor Adams, started like wanting to arrest people sleeping on the train, or no homeless people allowed on the trains. Like, we're criminalizing mental illness, criminalizing being poor, criminalizing all of this kind of, challenging stuff that just happens, like shit happens to people. And, people kind of, the powers that be act like they want to help these people, but they just want to get them. They don't want to look at them. They know it's bad for business in the city. They don't want people to visit here from other countries ready to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on Broadway shows and Yankee games and dinner in Midtown, and stuff like that, museums. They don't want people to have to look at the people who live here, the homeless people in the street, the vagrants, as they call them, the mentally ill. They don't want to have to deal with that. I don't think they even care about these people. That's just me. That's what I believe. So anyway, that's what I was thinking of, and I think it's really important to document it. I think it's really important to think about it, and I think it's really important to talk about it. And so in a sense, now this work that I did is kind of like a documentary in a way, even though I'm just doing a talking head and I just showed you a couple of little clips and they're not even in the right aspect ratio and the filmmaking is screwed up because I decided to shoot this on my anamorphic lens because it happens to be on the camera and I'm in a hurry right now. But, the point is, I brought it up, and if you're still here, you're thinking about this. And now that means it matters to you, and that means that I love you because it means something to you. Like you weren't disgusted by it. You weren't like, oh, gee, you didn't roll your eyes and just go away like most people do. Like when most people look at people in the street or see somebody sleeping on a park bench, they're disgusted. They keep their kids away. They're like, they don't want to see it. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to hear about it. They're like, they're like animals to most people. But those people are them. And that guy out on the park bench is those parents who are, taking their child to a Broadway show for $1,200 a ticket, or the Yankee game for $200 for a hot dog, or whatever people are paying these days, who are getting in an Uber for $200 to get from uptown to downtown in Manhattan instead of getting on the train. That's all of that is what just taking that quick little shot made me think of. How about the shot about women's health? When I looked at that, I looked back and I was like, that's so important, so crucial because of the way women are being treated, throughout history. Women couldn't even vote until I believe like not vote, but women couldn't have their own bank account. They couldn't have their own credit until 1972, I believe. Think about that. You couldn't have a mortgage in your name if you were a single woman in the 70s. And you know what? If I'm wrong about it, maybe I'm 10 years off. Maybe it was 62, but I'm pretty sure it was 1972. And now, men who always make the rules are telling us, telling women how to deal with their bodies, their health care. Like, that's insane, And there are actually women walking around going, hey, I think women should just be housewives. Like, let the men make decisions. They're trying to bring back that the man of the house can vote, but women can't vote because it's just a household vote. They should think the same way. The woman should think the way the man thinks. So when I captured that, that's what stood out to me. Also, I happen to love fire escapes. So yeah, that was kind of cool too. I love fire escapes, but that's really what I saw. And I thought about all the women that I love in my life. Like most of my close friends are women. And I've had nothing but powerful superhero kind of women in my life, my whole life. Every relationship I've had has been the most powerful woman. Somebody who's equal to men, better than men, I would argue. Because they have to overcome so much more. They have to do so much more. They have to be so much more. They are so much stronger than us. They are. Admit it. So that's what I saw when I shot that building. It's like nothing special. It's a building. Who cares? But so I documented it. Now here I am talking about women not being able to have a mortgage, not being able to have a savings, not being able to, have a credit card, not being able to live independently just because they're a woman. Do you know that not every state in the country has passed the Equal Rights Amendment still to this day, that women are not looked at as equal to men? Come on. That is crazy talk. So I'm so grateful I captured that so I could be here talking about this. That's incredible. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And I hope this looks good and I hope it sounds okay because I want to keep this because I feel like I spoke exactly what was in my heart and I hope you received it as such. And that's it for today. On to the next day. I hope you have a beautiful day.